Good morning, everyone. I'm Morton Blackwell, president of the Leadership Institute, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our October Wednesday Wake Up Club breakfast. We live in interesting times. My assistant, Kathy Graham, has been a longtime member of a church in D.C., the Capitol Hill Baptist Church. And on September 22nd, the church sued the mayor of the District of Columbia, Mayor Bowser, and the D.C. government because the church would not allow, the District of Columbia would not allow the church to conduct outside services that would be done with the distancing and other things which are required. And in contrast to that, they permit and in fact honor leftist operations like Black Lives Matter to demonstrate anywhere they want to in the District of Columbia without any adverse legal consequences. And the hearing in federal court is today. And we shall see what the court system says of this discrimination against religious organizations and favoritism to the Marxist Black Lives Matter organization. We expected to have Brent Bozell, our featured speaker, and he is not able to be with us. He is attending the funeral of the father of Christian Roby, who is one of his top employees, and Christian used to work for me here at the Leadership Institute, and we send our sympathy out to Christian and his family. I encourage you to live tweet today's event with hashtag WWCB. In 2020, the Leadership Institute has trained 4,952 students in 259 individual training schools. And since 1979, your Leadership Institute has trained 227,610 students. At the end of this event, you will be redirected to the training schedule, which is on the Leadership Institute website, and there you will find all of the currently scheduled upcoming trainings. Please take a moment to review those schools and consider attending one yourself or sending a friend to one of our training schools. This morning, as usual, there will be a chance to ask questions at the end of our speaker's talk. And I ask that you use the Zoom Q&A function to type in and submit a question should you have one. Kirsten Holmberg is the political and fundraising coordinator here in the programs department here at the Leadership Institute. She is a proud graduate of Grove City College, an institution that believes in the principles of faith and freedom. Originally from the Chicago area, Kirsten recently moved to Washington, D.C., where she enjoys reading on her front porch and cycling around the city. Kirsten, would you?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. And good morning, everybody. As Morton said, I am the political and fundraising coordinator at the Leadership Institute, which means I have the pleasure of coordinating LI's campaign and fundraising trainings. And I'm going to give a quick report on the division so far. But yeah, with COVID affecting in-person gatherings, the programs department was quick to adapt its trainings online while keeping the integrity of the schools. And to date, the political and fundraising division has more than 650 grads and more than 9,500 student hours of training. And before the end of the year, we have 4 more fundraising trainings, as well as the Lois and Ralph Humphrey Campaign Management School. The Careers Division is also working hard to finish this year strong. One of Morton's laws is personnel is policy. So the Careers Division is working with the administration to place good conservatives in prime spots within the federal government. And in fact, we just wrapped up the Foreign Service Opportunity School. And I believe one of the faculty of the schools, Pam Pryor, who is the acting assistant secretary of the International Organization Affairs, said it best when she said the State Department needs more LI grads. I think it is a testament to LI that there are such distinguished faculty that are willing to invest their time into the LI students. And with that, that is my quick programs report. I'd like to just quickly thank everyone who is tuning in. And I want to quickly note that with 47 different types of trainings, there is a training for everyone. So I encourage you to take a moment to check out our website when you have a chance and consider signing up for your next training. So thank you, everyone who is here today.
Thank you very much, Kirsten. The Leadership Institute continues to provide these valuable political and fundraising trainings online. They have been all the more crucial these last few months to support principal candidates in the upcoming election. I thank the generous and loyal donors to the Leadership Institute whose support makes all this possible, even in these uncertain times. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker. Cliff Maloney serves as the president of Young Americans for Liberty, the most active and effective pro-liberty youth organization which advances liberty on campus and in American electoral politics. After receiving training from the Leadership Institute in 2014, Cliff deployed as a congressional youth coordinator with my conservative leadership PAC. After serving as Rand Paul's national youth director in 2016, Cliff officially took over as president of Young Americans for Liberty, and under his leadership, YAL's programmatic budget grew from $3 million a year to over $10 million a year. In 2018, he led the launch of YAL's grassroots voter turnout program, which they call Operation Win at the Door. Through this initiative, YAL's youth activists have knocked on over 1.5 million doors, assisting in the election of 56 pro-liberty legislators to state legislatures across the country. This election cycle, YAL will deploy 1,000 college students to knock on over 1 million doors in targeted races. Cliff says his greatest ambition is to see Operation Win at the Door elect 250 Liberty legislators. Cliff lives in Florida with his wife, Grace, and their 2 dogs named Scout and Ranger. I encourage you to ask questions using the Zoom Q&A function throughout Mr. Maloney's talk. He'll have time to answer some at the end. Thank you for being with us today. And Cliff Maloney, you're on.
Morton, thanks as always. I appreciate it. I want to say thank you to your whole team. Always world class, always stepping up to make things easy for me. So thanks for having me. Deirdre, everybody can hear me loud and clear? I'm coming through all right? All right, great. Well, I just want to start by saying thank you to LI as always. You know, I'm a product of the Leadership Institute. I can't forget my roots. LI has been so generous to Young Americans for Liberty ever since our founding. A lot of people know that we were housed in, the joke is we would call Morton's closet, but Morton was very gracious and gave us the ability to start as an organization. My predecessor, Jeff Frazee, both of us consider Morton to be a mentor, and just want to start by saying thank you, because without LI, the training, the resources, the mentorship, YAL would not be what it is today. So thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, you're very welcome. But we supplied you with, and you paid rent on what was actually a pretty nice suite of rooms, which is now occupied by our Campus Reform website. You were just kidding about my closet. Before we got this building, the Leadership Institute did occupy some spaces in the National Right to Work building, which were closets. Go ahead.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Well, I want to start today with a line from Elizabeth Warren, and I usually get an interesting reaction when I say the name Elizabeth Warren from individuals who believe in our principles. But she says that the local leaders of today become the national leaders of tomorrow, and the local ideas of today become the national ideas of tomorrow. And I have to say, I think she's right. I think this is something that the left has gotten right for probably the last 3 decades. And that is that you have to go out and build a bench. You have to go out and try to find individuals that, they're not going to run for president tomorrow, but they're going to be people who can galvanize, who can organize, who can mobilize at the local level to try to start to build. And I think that infrastructure, is something that Young Americans for Liberty, working and partnering with groups like LI, we've understood that this is where you have to be. And so I want to talk today about, as Morton said, Operation Win at the Door, and just kind of talk through how we got to where we are and what we're focused on when it comes to the 2020 election. So I think that there's plenty of great college organizations out there, groups that we work with, groups that LI helps, that are all trying to pull students back from the brink of socialism. Right? Teaching people about free markets, about civil liberties, about the Constitution, and about how our government's kind of run amok, out of control, growing way too big every single day. We look at our national debt. We've got some major problems here that we've got to rein in as a country. And I think what we decided at Young Americans for Liberty is, look, there are plenty of ways that we can reach students. How can we energize them once we've gotten them on board? Once a student says, you know what, I believe in these principles, I believe in this cause, what's an outlet for me to take action? And so what Young Americans for Liberty did under our C4 is we decided that we were going to launch a direct political effort, but not focus on federal races. And I think this took a lot of people by surprise because most folks in America, whether you're a conservative activist, whether you're a liberty activist, whether you're somebody who's investing, your attention is typically on federal races, the Senate, the House, and the presidential. And if you turn on the media, everything right now is about federal races. And look, don't get me wrong, this presidential race, this Senate race, the House, they're very, very important elections. But what I made a decision on, me and my entire team at YAL, is that we need to plan for the future, right? We've got to play the long game. The shiny objects of only focusing in on these huge races, that's not going to paint the way for what we want down the future. And once again, I got to give credit to LI because they understand the youth are the future, right? Dare I say that Morton might even agree with me that Elizabeth Warren is right, that the local leaders of today become the national leaders of tomorrow. So we've got to continue to build and we've got to continue to focus. And so that's why we focus exclusively on state legislative races, is this idea that if we can go out with a team of young people that are energetic, that are trained and understand the political process, we're not waving signs on the street corners. We're actually talking to voters. We're engaging. We're working the Lincoln four-step in a way that wins elections. That's why our tagline is to make liberty win, because I'm tired of talking about liberty. I'm tired of getting excited about liberty. I want to make liberty win. I want to actually see the government limited in my lifetime. And I think there's a way for us to do this. And so that's been our tactic and our focus of taking students, going out and knocking doors, and trying to actually build a bench across the country of what we call liberty legislators. Once again, people who are strong for free markets, strong on civil liberties, strong on the Constitution, strong on peace. I mean, these are things that we want to find and start to develop from the ground up. Now, in 2018, 2019, we did 107 races. We won 56 of them. I'm not afraid to be blunt and share that we had some losses, right? We're learning a lot from our losses. But we try to find races where we can actually go in and make a difference. And happy to report back that, I think when we launched the program, it's been a big reason for YAL's growth, because investors are excited because they're seeing measurable impact. But our students, we've never had our students so engaged, because it gives them an outlet to not just get involved, not just get excited, but take the training they've gotten and actually go out and make an impact. I'd ask everybody here, imagine you're 19 years old, you spent 32 days on the ground, you've knocked, let's say, 3,000 doors, talked to a lot of people in the district that are voters, and you got them excited about your candidate. Your candidate gets wins on election night by less than 200 votes. Okay, of course you're going to sit there and say, wow, I made the difference here. Now you compare that, let's look at the Texas Senate race in 2018. Okay, our good friend Ted Cruz beat Beto, barely, but he beat him. There was $150 million spent in that race. Okay, if you're 19 years old and you're sitting there on election night and there was $150 million spent in that race, no one in their right mind is going to sit there and say, I made the difference in this race. And so I share that with you, that's been one of the great things we've seen is the empowerment of our students, right? Is them making it feel as if they are making the difference. Then imagine a couple months later, you have somebody like Savannah Maddox in Kentucky who passes constitutional carry. Once again, imagine you're one of those 10 college students who made the difference on the ground for her. It's not just winning the election, it's then the results. Once again, make liberty win. How about constitutional carry being forced through the House by her and then signed by Governor Bevin before he left office? Those are the powerful ways that we can impact things. We've had plenty of free speech bills, same thing, introduced, passed, and signed into law that now give our students the right to free speech on campus. Morton knows a lot about this. I mean, we see this, different administrators that want to silence our students because, quite frankly, they don't believe in the same things that we do. And they find it easier to just shut our speakers down or shut our events down or shut our groups down rather than debating us on the merits. So it's exciting to see these legislators actually getting things done. And I got to say, in the times of COVID, now more than ever, I mean, I think most people are starting to ask questions about states' rights, right? And this has been kind of an interesting thing because in no way, we should take the virus seriously, of course, but in no way should a governor be able to tell you can't leave your house. In no way should a governor be able to tell you can't go to work. And I think that the COVID presents itself as an opportunity for all of us to start to have these conversations. We have a lot of people coming out of the woodwork who typically aren't as engaged that are now interested. They want to talk about these ideas. They want to talk about the role of government. That is a huge opening for us. And I think it's one that we need to take advantage. So I just want to go back to this idea that focusing on the states, if you're truly somebody who wants to limit government, I think it's an area we need to focus. States get to redistrict. States get to stop bad governors. States get to enhance good governors. You look at Ron DeSantis here in Florida. I'm just off Eglin Air Force Base. I mean, I would say kudos to Governor DeSantis because he's led on principle. You look at people like Kristi Noem, governor of South Dakota. Kudos. And here's the crazy thing. What they're doing isn't even radical. Kristi Noem said, look, I'm just telling people they have the freedom to choose if they want to wear a mask or not. She's not anti-mask. She's just pro-freedom. But we have allowed our country to become so radicalized that the idea of just giving people the option to choose the risks they want to take is now considered to be absolutely irrational. So, I mean, that's one of those things with messaging we need to focus on. 2020, what are we doing at Young Americans for Liberty? We're continuing to build on college campuses throughout the United States. We're continuing to recruit students. We're continuing to partner with LI to run trainings across the country and get our students the resources and the knowledge that they need to be the most effective activists, because that's where they got to be. We got to have that group of the most effective activists that believe in our ideas. And what we're doing on the C4 side, we're doubling down on this Operation Win at the Door, knocking over 1 million doors again. We're out there with 1,000 students across the country. We launched on September 20th. They'll be out there through Election Day, and we're in targeted districts. We've won 81 primary races this cycle alone. We're now on the ground with potential wins in 155 districts across America. And like Morton said, my goal here is to elect 250. We can elect 250 by the end of 2022. That's this cycle and next cycle. I think we finally got an infrastructure across the country of people who truly believe in the Constitution. I'm not talking about the milquetoast folks, or Morton knows we hear these people all the time. Oh, I'm a conservative, but then they get in, they vote to raise taxes, they vote to raise spending, they vote to add regulation. I'm talking about real constitutionalists, people that understand we need to shrink government and give more power back to the people. If we elect 250 of them to state house seats across the country, that's roughly 5% of every seat in America. Now you might say, well, that's not that much. Look, I don't need a majority. We don't need a majority. We need leaders. We need a new generation of people who are going to stand up and start to lead on principle. And so that's why that 250 number excites me. And look, this is just the beginning. You know, the foundation we're building alongside LI, the ability to not just have young people in office, but to have young people as leaders. Somebody asked me once, they said, Cliff, when are you ever going to get to a point where 51% of college students believe in the principles of liberty? And I said, look, with all due respect to America's college campuses, you don't need 51%. The vast majority of students are apathetic. They don't involve. They're not involved. They're not engaging. And that's fine. They're focused on getting their diploma. They're focused on marrying, finding a wife or finding a husband. They're focused on paying a mortgage once they get that degree. They want to find a job. They're busy. And I will say this to you guys, don't take offense to this. If you're on this webinar, it probably means you're like me and that you're not normal. You are engaged, right? You're breaking the trend of somebody who's not engaged, but that's okay. What that means is when we talk about college students, there's roughly 2 to 5% of college students that are going to become the next public policy leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, nonprofit leaders, politicians, the people that are going to drive where we go as a country. That's what Morton and I are working on. That's what we're all trying to do, is develop those 2 to 5% to believe in our ideology, and most importantly, have the skills to be effective. And so when I tell people, are we ever going to get to 51%? No, but the left's not going to get there either. Eventually the thing that excites me about America and that excites me about young people is a lot of folks are worried. They say, well, this next generation, look, socialism is a word. Sure, it polls well, and that should scare us. But when you dive in, when you ask young people, should the government take 30 cents of every dollar you make? No. Should the government be able to access your emails and your bank statements and your phone records? They say no. Should the government put barriers up for businesses and enforce people to have to jump through hoops to help the big guy and hurt the little guy? No. Across the board, young people have an entrepreneurial spirit. Young people have a victor, not a victimhood type mentality. These are things that should excite us. The gut reaction of Americans, both young and old, is still to go out and create, to innovate. And so anytime I feel down, anytime I think, we've got a big problem here when it comes to the trends of the country, no, we don't. We've got a prosperous future if we can continue to reach young people and develop those that want to go out and be the next creator. We can actually help them to do that and start businesses and be actually able to hopefully move society toward understanding we don't need to rely on government. We need to rely on individualism and the ability to go out and have the liberty to create and actually help others. So I'd like to end today just by saying this. Look, I think we've got a huge opportunity ahead of us when it comes to not just this election, but the next generation. I think what we're doing right now, it's so easy to become fixated with big federal races. And don't get me wrong, they are so important. But while folks are lasered in on those races, we have got to remember that we've got to build a foundation. We've got to play the long game for the future of this country. And it's why I'm so appreciative to get to lead Young Americans for Liberty. I'm appreciative of the partnership and the focus that Morton has at LI, because we cannot lose sight that it's not just the here and now. It's got to be planning for tomorrow. And I think we have to start doing that today. Would love to answer any questions folks have, both about Young Americans for Liberty, about our work in the state legislatures, and anything that we're doing. Patty, if you want to jump in, or somebody else, I just want to say thank you to everybody.
Well, first, let me thank you, Cliff. You really give a great talk, and you're leading a fine organization, and I'm so happy to have had an opportunity to work with you, and look forward to continuing to work for you for a long time. Before I turn it over to Patty, I want to ask a question. And by the way, as you no doubt can expect, we're going to ship you as a little gift an Adam Smith tie for speaking at our breakfast. But here's the question. Up until last week, the National Democrats have had almost strictures against door knocking. They announced that they were going to change that last week, but what do you think of the Democrats' policy up until last week to talk down door knocking?
Well, thank you for the time, Morton. I need it. I'm actually tieless at the moment, so thank you for that. I think it's interesting and fascinating to watch kind of this double speak from Democrats, because here's the problem. We, as people who believe in liberty, we take the virus very seriously. The Democrats have kind of realized that this is the issue. They want to make this the issue that they go all in on. And they want to use this to drive fear and to showcase that Trump and Republicans across the country like DeSantis and Noam, have botched the American people. And so if you're all in on that narrative, that the virus is the most dangerous thing in the world, you can at the same time then ask your volunteers and ask your activists to go out and engage with voters, because that would be a huge boondoggle, right? I mean, that's literally telling them they have to fear this, but hey, we need you to go out and we need you to knock doors and endanger yourself. And I think what happened is I think the Democrats realized, with groups like YAL and these other groups that are out engaging voters, having real conversations. Look, everybody's going to get 100 pieces of mail. Everybody's going to have the TV ads up wall to wall. I mean, they're going to spend billions of dollars this cycle. But if you can put an activist at the door, especially a youth activist, that penetrates, right? That really hits a voter and it motivates them, which is what we're trying to do, motivate voters to vote for our candidates. So I think the Democrats just realized last week, holy cow, we are getting crushed when it comes to actual grassroots mobilization. And I think they weighed the cost-benefit analysis, and now they're saying, well, we're going to have to send our folks out in the field. But it's a problem for them with their messaging, because you cannot say the virus is the most horrific thing in the world, but then put people out in the front lines. So I'm interested to see how the media reacts. I hold my breath to think the mainstream media will hold them accountable, but it's definitely a problem they're running into.
Thank you very much, Cliff. It's now my pleasure to turn the Q&A session over to Patty Rausch, who is one of our key staffers here at the Leadership Institute. She's had the opportunity to study the questions. There are a number of questions that people have already posted. I remind you that if you have a question for Cliff, type it out in the Q&A section of Zoom there at the bottom, and I turn it over to Patricia Rausch. Patty?
Thank you, Morton. And Cliff, thank you again for speaking. It's always a pleasure. I'm bummed that I only get to see you on Facebook and not in person, but so I think we're all really looking forward to the after times, so to speak. First thing I want to ask you, Tell us what it's like to get retweeted by the president this morning.
You know, today was supposed to be a slow morning. It was supposed to be, prep for my speech here with you guys and get things off the ground. And at about 8 a.m., I guess maybe 9 a.m. Eastern. Trump retweeted 2 of my tweets and yowls as well, and they were videos about different things. One about Kristi Noem. I think it's pretty awesome to see Al's message of principle, hitting a national stage. Rest in peace to my notifications. It's been an interesting morning, both for me, for YL's Twitter account, but I'm glad to have our message getting out there to over, I guess about 100 million people. So that's pretty cool.
Well, congratulations for getting your message out there. Talking about not being able to get your message out there. A month or so ago, you had a big event planned in Dallas, Texas. And unfortunately, last minute, the city made you cancel YaleCon. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that's like and how you think that municipalities should be handling this differently?
Yeah, it was a pretty fascinating experience, because what happened was we've been planning this event in Dallas for months. About 1,400 students, some investors, about 100 to 200 elected officials. And here's the thing, look, we're a youth organization. The average age of the attendee is 20 years old. If the average age of the attendee was 95 years old, I wouldn't recommend having an event in person during COVID. But what we did was we worked with them every step of the way. They said you had to wear masks. We said, okay. They said that travel mates had to be roommates. We said, that's fine. They said box lunches instead of buffet. We said, okay. And then they hit us with 3 different social distance guidelines about spacing in rooms. And every single time we said, look, that's fine. We'll work with you. The event, the training itself is valuable enough that we're willing to work with these different asks. But anyway, what was frustrating for us is about a week and a half to 2 weeks out, they approved everything. The city came in and said, yep, everything looks good. Go forth with your event. Then our staging arrived, our banners, all of our signage, the pipe and drape, they're in the loading dock, and they wouldn't let them in the hotel. And that was 3 days before the launch. So they literally waited until 72 hours beforehand to pull the plug. And the reason it's tough to not see it as a political hit job is the city literally a week to 2 weeks before said, yes, you're 100% approved, while they're allowing about 3,000 to 4,000 unmasked rioters to be out in the street rioting. Now, look, I'm all for peaceful protest, sure. But why the double standard? 1,400 students for a peaceful educational event where we're wearing masks, where we're social distancing, we're doing everything they asked. So it's really difficult. And we decided, we're out nearly $200,000. And as Morton told me, fight back. And always taught us, you can't let a bureaucrat go unchallenged. I mean, we're suing the city of Dallas because to us, it's just not right for students who believe what we believe to be told they're not allowed to assemble, but unmasked rioters are allowed to just kind of do what they want in the city, and there's no repercussions. So we're suing them, and hopefully we'll have some good news on that in the next couple weeks here.
Very, very interesting. And you'll have to keep everybody updated on your Twitter handle, which is, remind everyone what your Twitter handle is.
At Liberty Cliff, right on message.
Awesome. Speaking of different places around the country, where does Yale currently have, what races are you working on, what levels? And second part, so that's the C4. The C3 with the student groups on campus, where are you focusing all of your efforts in student groups on campus? Is it in specific states, or is it on campuses that are willing to do activism events?
Yeah, so it's interesting during the times of COVID. I'll start with the C4 question. So on the election side, look, we're in 10 battleground states in terms of, what folks will care about, because although we're endorsing state legislative races, we're turning out voters that, depending on the state we're in, are going to help certain Senate candidates, presidential battleground states. So we've got 10 of what we would call swing states, but we're in over 15 states across the country. So it's interesting to see where we have candidates that pop up. We're not in California. So I always tell people in California, they kind of jump out and they'd love for us to be involved there. But I tell them, look, we need to use our resources where they can make a difference. So finding target states or target districts, we try to make sure we're understanding our overall strategy, not just throwing money at races, to throw money at them. In terms of campus, during COVID, we've shifted pretty much all of our on-campus staff to states that are allowing on-campus class, period. So that's been interesting. I mean, right now, I would say we're interested to see if schools remain open, what it looks like for the rest of this semester, what it looks like in the spring. But as of this moment, there are enough campuses open that we can fully operate our programs. But I will admit, certain states that have closed down, we've shifted our staff out of those states to focus on areas where people are allowed to do campus activism. And I got to say, I mean, the culture on campus is interesting. Certain states it's wide open, certain states it's absolutely not. But what we're trying to do is make sure we continue. We don't want this to be a reason to stop reaching people, but do it safely and in a responsible way.
We've got several questions from people who are kind of looking on how to get involved, bookending the Yell. It's how do you encourage kids in middle school and high school? How do you develop a liberty-loving young person and getting them involved? And then on the other bookend is that if someone may have not gone to college or university and they really want to get involved, how do they get involved that way? You're looking for the non-traditional Yale person.
Yeah. So look, I mean, anybody that wants to get involved and spend time helping our mission, we'd love to have you. YALiberty.org. You can check out all of our programs. But I like to break it down into 3 buckets. The first is, all of our activists, right? So all of our activists, both on campus, recent graduates, young professionals in the community, they can get involved. We have something called city chapters. So instead of it being on campus, if you're a recent graduate and you want to help out, there's ways for you to get together and do that, bring speakers, do different activism where you are. And then obviously there's knocking doors, right? And this is all under the activist bucket of different ways you can get involved, different ways you can engage. And like I said, anyone who wants to help, we can always find a way to get you involved. The second bucket is candidates. And I don't mean you have to run for office. But what I do mean is helping us to get folks to fill out our survey, meaning candidates, fill out our candidate survey or questionnaire. So if you're somebody out there who believes in our mission and wants to help us, reach out to your state representative. Get them to fill out our survey. We want to get them on the record. Maybe we'll endorse them, but honestly, we probably just want them on the record because they're probably not that great. And we'd like to get a real liberty legislator in there. Maybe you, the person I'm talking to, or Patty, I'm talking to you. Maybe we can get you to run for state house. But the idea is candidates is kind of the second big thing of either helping us obtain surveys or, come out to one of our trainings, come out to a Liberty Candidate Academy and get yourself ready to run for office. So I always say that it's activists, it's candidates, and then the third bucket is investors, right? Giving us the resources to pull this off. $5 a month goes a long way when it comes to chipping in for Gatorade or pizza for our door knockers, supplies or pocket constitutions for our campus activism. But obviously we can't pull any of this off if we can't keep the lights on. So activists, candidates, and investors, those are kind of the 3 buckets of ways for people to really get involved. And for those that are looking to volunteer under that activist bucket, there's just so many ways you can make a difference.
I've got 2 questions left, and then we can bid you adieu because I know that your ats in your Twitter account are probably getting out of hand at this point in time. So I know you've got a busy day ahead. The first question, or the first of the last 2, is when you are looking at candidates and you say that they're liberty candidates, I know that a lot of conservatives get nervous that means that you completely disregard all social issues entirely. So how do you recruit a really well-rounded candidate, and how do you choose that you're going to back them? And specifically, how do young people get chosen to be these candidates? It's what's your litmus test?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you go to whyliberty.org/door, you can find the survey. It's public. People can see it. It's about 6 pages long. And when we have candidates take this survey, we're looking for two things. We're looking for their principle and we're looking for their viability. And unfortunately, there's a lot of principled young candidates, Patty, that come out and they're excited, they're principled, and they might even be well-rounded. They're not viable. As a national organization, we have to make decisions, right? I mean, yeah, we might have endorsed and have 155 potential wins right now, but we've gotten nearly 1,000 surveys from candidates who are looking to get endorsed. So it's a difficult process. There are certain questions on the survey that if somebody answers, we just throw the survey to the side. It's definitely a no. There are certain questions that are a sliding scale. We try to see where they're at. But on your question about social issues, I think the way that we define liberty is, look, in any situation, government's either going to move towards tyranny or towards freedom. And we always view ourselves as wherever we are, let's move towards freedom. And sometimes that'll make me a radical. Sometimes it won't. I'm somebody that would say we should balance the federal budget tomorrow, but I'd also realize we need to move towards balancing it. And so I think there are certain stands you can take. But on social issues, look, I don't like to say socially liberal. I like to say I want to get the government out of it. I happen to be a Christian individual. I happen to have beliefs. I would like to be able to have the religious liberty to have those beliefs. And so I think one of the big things that we are trying to advocate for when we talk about liberty is this idea of, look, getting government out of our lives as much as possible so people have the right to make moral decisions. So we have the right to work with others and to try to advance our ideas peacefully, and doing that in a way where we can connect with folks. So I like what you said, well-rounded, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for young people who are going to attract not just other young folks, but be able to connect with the typical voter in a way that almost says, hey, I'm leading and here's where we're going as a country. And sadly, the left, they've kind of had a monopoly on this. A lot of the left's youth leaders are kind of propelled onto the national stage or given a microphone. And so I think that's one of the things we're trying to do is to get young people to focus and to connect locally with candidates that will excite them. And that's been a big part of the success with Operation Win at the Door. So I think that's a great question.
That's a great answer, Cliff. Thank you for that. And finally, how do you balance being pro-liberty with pragmatism and holding elected officials accountable?
Yeah, so one of the things that we have some fun with at YAL is we really focus on the principles. So if when somebody fills out our survey, it's technically private. We don't publish it anywhere, but we have a clause at the end of the survey that every candidate signs. It says, if you stab us in the back, we will take it and we will use it publicly if we think it's egregious enough. But look, there are some tough votes that some of these legislators have to take, but we're not afraid. If we had a gentleman in Vermont, I'll share my dirty laundry here. We had a gentleman in Vermont that we actually kicked out of our coalition because he voted for a $21 million tax increase. It was just, come on, like it doesn't get much easier than that. Now I know he's in Vermont and people have their thoughts about Vermont and there's a certain senator there, but we elected this guy because he told us he would stand on principle. And so I think it's about weighing what the decisions are as a national organization. We're talking about state policy, which every state has a different environment, a different playing field. But I think you have to weigh whether it makes sense that the person took the vote, but also weigh the fact that, if we just get all these people elected and they don't do anything they tell us they're going to do, then why even run the program in the first place? We want people that believe in the Constitution, that have conviction, that are going to stand on principle. And so, we try to back them up as much as possible. But I think at the same time, being pragmatic and also mixing that with the idea that if somebody gets way out of line, you can't be afraid to speak out. And I think that's an important part of the program we're running.
Well, Cliff, thank you so much for your insight. It is very valuable to everyone who's attended. And again, can't wait to see you in person sometime in the future. It's been too long. And this is also a good reminder that I need to give Yale another donation because I believe so much in what you do. So thanks for that. And for everyone who attended, thank you for joining us. Please join us on November 4th for our next virtual Wednesday Wake Up Club breakfast. For those of you with a calendar or have been paying attention to the news at all, yes, that is the day after Election Day. So be prepared to tune in that day for a post-election day briefing. I encourage you to RSVP online for that at leadershipinstitute.org/breakfast. You will get a follow-up email from today, and then I'll have that link in there. And once again, thank you all for joining us online this morning. Until next time, stay well.
Thanks so much for watching this video. To watch our latest video, click here. And to make sure you don't miss any future videos, be sure to subscribe.